Tucker Carlson is trying to be like, hey, you know, you might have seen people breaking glass and like disrupting order in the Capitol on January 6th, but did you know that they walked calmly down the halls every once in a while? Tucker Carlson clearly wants to launder some narrative of the January 6th riots. Let's see how successful he is.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson and happy Monday. We're about to show you surveillance footage from inside the United States Capitol.
Whoa, something we have never seen.
The images you'll see were recorded 26 months ago today.
No, that's distracting.
Until now, politicians have kept this tape hidden from the public. There is no legitimate justification for that, and there never has been.
Okay, let's keep in mind, off the bat, y'all, off the bat, Tucker Carlson has already kind of like set this up, I think, I mean, let's be honest, the guy's lying, and it's not even so much that he's lying so much as he's trying to frame everything in the absolutely most biased possible way, right? Because like Tucker Carlson will say, you've seen the January 6th footage that's been released, and then, you know, we all have seen the footage. We all know what's going to be in here, right? We all know like all the common video clips that we see, people bashing in the windows, people laying the smack down on the police. We all know this. But Tucker Carlson, apparently, I guess he was given access to like a lot of the video material by like Kevin McCarthy, apparently. But Tucker Carlson and his team combed through all of the footage that was available for them to find something, some piece of just groundbreaking. And this is what what he's promoted as narrative changing and everything else. But obviously, you know, in his mind, he's like, whoa, we found some clips that the public has not been shown. So we will now show you these clips that utterly undermine the hours of footage you've seen of riotous activity inside the Capitol. And like, again, you would think to yourself, oh, what? Well, like, you know, you have to ask yourself a couple quick questions. Let's establish some quick questions here. One, did Tucker Carlson do this during the George Floyd protests? Keep in mind, Tucker Carlson was one of the main people pushing the BLM rioting, burnt down Minneapolis, all this stuff, right? When the counter to that argument was you are cherry picking the minority cases of violence and using those to characterize a majority peaceful protest. That was always the argument, not that there wasn't violence, but simply that characterizing an entire protest movement based on a minority, and I mean a minority of cases, is dishonest, right? And do you think Tucker Carlson would have given any of, you know, did he go out on his platform and go, hey, look guys, did a Target get burned? Yes, it did. But does that one building burning does that what's the word I'm looking for? Does that outweigh the thousands, if not millions of people taking to the street to protest the killing of George Floyd? The peaceful, the simple marching, all the rest of that stuff. Does any of that outweigh it? Tucker Carlson would say, what do you mean? I've been told these are peaceful protests, but yet I can find violent action. Therefore, it must be the violent action. No, obviously, he went on his platform and obviously did the Minneapolis is burned to the ground. There's no more cities anymore. It's a desolate wasteland. RoboCop 3. That's what he did. But now all of a sudden, Tucker Carlson's like, hey, I found some footage that means, hey, if 85% of the January 6th riot was a riot and 15% was people standing around and kind of not knowing what to do, then obviously we should be characterizing the January 6th riots as a protest, right? But that's not, these things just aren't comparable. But either way, let's see. Let's just find out.
On January 6, 2 years ago, thousands of protesters walked from a Trump rally.
I keep thinking it's 2020 that happened. I keep being like, is that only 2 years?
Of the presidential
Feels like 3, but I guess it'll be 3 next year.
The protesters were angry. They believed that the election they had just voted in had been unfairly conducted.
I wonder why.
Right. In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election.
They were right. I guess if you want to say unfair, they can certainly say it's unfair, but you have to keep in mind Fox News is already in legal action with Dominion voting systems, so he's got to watch his words pretty tightly. Unfair is like, well, people thought it was unfair. That's factually correct. I think it was unfair. I think it's unfair that Republican voters don't just get to decide the president, that a minority party with a minority of the population behind it should get to choose the path forward. You can say that's unfair. Now, if, is it true? Not really. That's not how democracy works, but, but keep in mind, Tucker Carlson is one of the prime suspects to why they showed up at this rally, why they showed up doing the things that they did.
Was a grave betrayal of American democracy. Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it. Yet the beneficiaries of that election continue to lie about what is now obvious. The real crime, they will tell you again,
yes.
again, is not what happened on Election Day 2020. The real crime is what happened 2 months later on January 6th, when Donald Trump led an insurrection against the duly elected American government.
Well, technically, he didn't lead anything. Chicken shit didn't even show up to the Capitol. Even though it seems like, reports go back and forth, but it seemed like he kind of wanted to be there, so.
To prove that claim and to divert attention from the details of the presidential election itself, Democrats in Congress impaneled what they called the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack.
The
point of that committee was to prevent
it's always
Donald
House
Trump
Select
from
Committee
running for
on
president
X
again.
thing.
In December of last year,
I always love Republican framing of anything like Democrats do, even though it's the naming convention that basically all investigatory committees get. It's always House Investigatory Committee on blank thing. But the Republican audience who watches this stuff, every single time Democrats do anything that is most of the time rather banal and usually not that interesting, they always have to turn anything into like this oppositional, like they're coming for your guns, they're the so-called House Committee on Violence, and it's like, calm down. They're all called that. It's not unique. Jesus Christ.
Your committee members voted unanimously to refer Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Mission accomplished. But what the committee
and then they didn't do it.
Was explain what happened inside the Capitol on January 6th. 3 weeks ago, thanks to the new Republican Speaker's office, we gained access to thousands of hours of surveillance video that help answer that question.
Thousands of hours.
The January 6th committee had access to this.
Now, you might be wondering to yourself, how is it that like the entire January 6th event lasted a couple hours? How is there like thousands of hours of footage? To which that one's really easy. It's just, if you have like 10 CC cameras filming, 5 hours, you have like 50 hours right there just of those specific closed circuit cameras, along with, any other footage. So keep in mind, that's all body cam footage. That's probably a lot of footage confiscated from people who went to jail for this. So any of their phones, any videos that they took, people just filming in general, not part of the rally, stuff that showed up on social media. I can imagine there's quite a lot of footage of everything that went down that day. But keep in mind, thousands of hours. You've seen some of the most extreme stuff. Keep in mind,
very same tape.
Like, does this negate any of that?
Show you, does this lied about what they saw,
mystical space typhoon any of that other video footage?
January 6th criminal defendants and their lawyers. That is unforgivable. Whatever you think of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we are grateful that he did. Before we show you the tape, a few words on the process. Our producers had unfettered...
Okay, dude, you need to hurry up. You're taking too long. This is such a setup. Is it a wonder? This is a 5.5-minute segment. If the evidence is so damning, why are we spending less than, what, 2 minutes on it? Does this... Don't you fucking tell me. Somehow I found the one... No way.
Mapping software that made it easy to find what we were looking for. What we didn't have was access to facial recognition software, and that was significant. For more than 2 years, we have wondered why some in the crowd that
Am I gonna get to see the fucking
inciting violence were never indicted for it. We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. And in fact, there were many examples of behavior we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. Men in civilian clothes holding...
Ugh. I cannot believe we watched all of that. Okay, let's... God damn it. Okay. Anyway, all right. So this is the actual footage that they presented. All right, so we've seen this.
These are the pictures you've seen
of
January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th.
Oh, hey, yeah, that guy just stood up a fucking legs.
In and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim.
Ah, yes. It can't be an insurrection because at this point, they've already broken into the building, seized control of it. And do you notice the cops here? Okay, so let's keep this in mind. There's a police officer here. We've seen police throughout, like, you know, in the little clips that they've shown so far. They've shown, like, you know, there's been police kind of hanging around these, you know, hanging around the rioters, the protesters, as Tucker would, I think, rather have it. But, like, the question needs to be asked, what the fuck is this guy supposed to do to all of these people? Like, what is he supposed to do? What, is he supposed to arrest all of these? He's got exactly one pair of cuffs. At this point, the cops already have come to an understanding of, like, okay, we are in damage control. There is no version of this where we can actually arrest people and start, like, challenging them. I mean, I guess they could have if they brought, you know, the kind of weaponry and gear that they brought for BLM protesters, but they didn't do that. And there's a conversation to be said around that, why the Capitol Police did not take this threat seriously, and we're not interested in stopping them from getting in here. But by no means does, like, okay, so you found, so after they broke in, after they broke windows, after they you know, ransacked the building, they hung out. Okay, yeah, like they were waiting for Donald Trump to show up and, like, I don't know, take control of the government forcefully. Like, that was the plan, right? That's what they're all waiting for. They're waiting for Trump, but he never shows up. He tells them instead to go home.
That's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. What is this? Those lies had a purpose.
Better question. Why can I not see it?
Created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours.
Yeah, illegally.
The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again.
Yep.
But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers.
Yes. Like,
footage from inside the Capitol overturned
Yeah, you're a sightseer when you enter the grounds legally, not when you break in. You don't like this would be the equivalent of somebody breaking into your home and like, you know, they like busted like, you know, one of your nice vases, but then just kind of like hung out. You know, they just kind of looked at your like nice family photos, you know, kind of looked around your kitchen, complimented the you know, the aesthetics of how you placed everything in your living room, and then was like, "What? I didn't break in. I'm not a I'm not breaking and entering. I'm just here. I'm just here appreciating your home. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, like also like, do you again keep in mind like does Tucker say any of this for the BLM protests? Again, like when it comes down to it, if he can paint a majority peaceful protest with its most violent minority action, then like and he wants to do literally the exact opposite. He wants to paint a majority violent protest action with the actions of the minority peaceful group. Like it's actually fucking insane. Like how anybody falls for this, and I don't really think anybody does. I don't think anybody who watches Fox News thinks like, oh yeah, like it was like peaceful. What are the, you know, why does everyone get all up in arms? It was totally peaceful. They were totally just like sightseeing. Like this is not sightseeing. Sightseeing is not you don't break into the Louvre and then go, I just wanted to see the paintings, all right? Like no, like there's a time to sightsee and a time when you're trespassing.
Turns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the speaker's office.
No, I can't.
They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol.
The revenge of the M&Ms.
They're there because they believe the election was stolen from
I'll play it after the segment.
They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber.
Like, yeah, these guys are fucking buffoons. Like how does this invalidate anything? Yes, you're right, Tucker. Your audience and these guys are fucking buffoons. They showed up to overtake a federal building, one that the police, an institution who is rather consistently sympathetic to their causes, did not properly stop them from doing, and then came to the realization of like, oh shit, I have like no idea what I'm fighting about. I have no idea what I'm rioting about. I have no idea what I want to happen next. All I did was want to exercise my anger. Like, yeah, they're fucking buffoons. Like,
these are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
Legal rally.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol,
and then it
building,
didn't happen.
Chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the
Since
front.
when has Tucker Carlson ever had a problem with tear gas? Like, when it comes down to it, it's always like when it comes to Tucker, it's always like you can't throw tear gas at good conservative Republican voters. That's not acceptable. And then like when it's leftists, when it's socialists, when it's communists, when it's black people, when it's brown people, when it's anybody who's not explicitly in Tucker Carlson's conservative Republican circle, then it's like fucking pop the fucking tear gas. Like we're at fucking Coachella, guys. Like who gives a fuck? Like it's so disfucking honest. Like please fucking spare me.
One of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of
three
others
people.
Just
That was a stereo super kick.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day
This fucking
was a Navy
larper.
veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman.
QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became
That's like
the face
that
of
was
January.
wasn't that like his fucking name too? Like they make it sound like he was called that. Like no, I'm fairly certain that was like his name beforehand.
6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in
Yep.
outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment?
Trespassing.
To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building.
Probably the way everybody else did. They broke in and then a flood of people like rushed in. Like, you know, now that I think about it, he got in the same way you get in when you play that one Fall Guys level with all the fucking doors. Like, everyone just rushes to one of the entrances and then just kind of elbows their way in while trying to get through. Like, there's not really that much of a debate on this. Like,
of the internal surveillance
also,
video,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how he got in. It was illegal to be there to start with.
Time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides.
Wow, you've really got me there.
Of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to...
So what you're telling me is the Capitol Police did not act consistently with their normal police procedures of trespassing? Whoa. Wait. Tucker, you do realize this shows an obvious bias from the police on your side? Like, I don't know if he doesn't realize this. Maybe his, like, you know, silver spoon brain hasn't quite figured it out yet, or maybe he can't see it. But yeah, idiot. One of the arguments during and after January 6th was how disproportionate the response was by Capitol Police. The Capitol Police, you're showing everybody right now that the left and Democrats were right. You moron. That, yeah, the fucking police were okay and sympathetic and actively aided and abetted some of these people while doing their nonsense riot. Like, yeah, no shit. Not only that, keep in mind, even if we're being, let's be charitable to the police for a moment. Let's say these guys, one second. Let's assume that these officers are not actually, you know, they're not cool with the QAnon shaman. They're like, you know, they're not down with the 88, right? They're not down with any of that shit. Then what are they doing? They can't arrest. What are they going to do? Arrest the guy? How the fuck are they going to get him out? The entire building's been sieged. They have the best case scenario for any officer at this point is to reduce damage and harm. But like, arresting anybody is not going to matter. They brought guns. They were ready to, there were already officers who were beat to shit outside. So do you think these two guys are like, all right, we're going to like totally take this shaman guy, and there won't be a disproportionate violent response to meet us when we walk him out in handcuffs? No, they were like, we don't want to get fucking pummeled. So we'll kind of guide the guy around, let him kind of do his thing, you know, make him feel kind of like, you know, welcome into the building. And then, you know, hopefully he kind of runs out of gas and goes the fuck home. That's like best case scenario. For once, the police know how to de-escalate a situation. Funny that.
Multiple entrances, and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks.
It's almost
for them
like
in a prayer
the police
on the floor of the Senate.
Kind of corrupt.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers.
Fun fact, they're trespassing right now. They're trespassing on federal property.
To allow us into the building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th.
Trespass?
The indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him.
Thank you. God, somebody gets it. Like at the end of the day, like Tucker Carlson is trying to be like, hey, you know, you might have seen people breaking glass and like disrupting order in the Capitol on January 6th. But did you know that they walked calmly down the halls every once in a while? It's crazy, I know. Did you know that they weren't smearing shit all over the walls and firing off AR-15s constantly? I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Shoot him. Like, if it
You burst into the United States. If he was dressed like Bin Laden, would he have shot him?
Shoot him.
Bin Laden.
Shoot
You
him.
don't even have to go to Bin Laden.
Makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob.
Not only that, but like if you shoot this guy, do you know how many people you're like are gonna like draw weapons on you? If any of these cops do anything, if any of these cops tried to take this guy into custody or shoot any of these protesters, we would have like armed like fucking shots fired in the Capitol. Like, we're lucky they had restraint. The only time they seem to have restraint, the police. But like, still, like, yeah, they didn't fire at anybody because they were already outnumbered. They already knew that if we fire on some people, we're all dead. And these people will just run roughshod over the whole building.
Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he
Keep
was
him
in fact
locked up.
committing such a grave crime,
Not
why
as good.
didn't
Not
the
as good.
officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened.
Well, there's two really easy answers. One, it wasn't strategically feasible and wouldn't be effective. There's only so many pairs of handcuffs you can have. And two, here's the other answer, Tucker. The police are as corrupt as all the leftists have been saying, and thank you for presenting us with evidence. But none of this footage negates any of the other footage. It's not like, hey, you saw that guy break a window? He also walked down the hall very calmly. See, isn't he peaceful? Like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how that works. Man, that's actually kind of worse than I thought it would be. You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.